Hello and welcome to the Sports Grad Podcast, your bite-sized guide to enter the sports industry. And joining me, as always, in the studio, the marking and goal-scoring machine, Ruben Williams. How are you, mate?
G'day, Ryan. I'm doing very well, thank you. I do usually, I tell people when they ask me, "Oh, how's football going? Do you play football?" I say yes, but I'm not a good footballer.
Yeah.
I grew up playing soccer. But I had the pinnacle of my footballing career over the weekend, so I'm glad you brought this up.
Don't we know it? Don't we know it?
And this is where
parading around about this.
Well, this is where the lines of LinkedIn content become very blurred. Because I've had a highlight. I've had a milestone achievement.
Yeah. Well,
I took a specky. I took my first ever specky on the weekend and finished it with a goal afterwards. I was very proud. I was very happy with myself. And I don't know whether to put it on LinkedIn or not. I don't know if this is letting people in on who I am and what I've been up to, or if I should just save it for Snapchat or something completely separate.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we've generally not heard anything more about... Sorry, I put that wrong. We've heard nothing but chat about this goal and mark. The mark is... Ruben's actually got photos of it on his phone. I have it on good authority. He's been walking around the office actually showing people the photo. Anybody who asks anything about football, he'd sort of respond with, "Oh, hey, by the way, have you heard about this mark I took the weekend?" But no, well done, mate. Well done. The Lawn Dolphins are flying.
We are.
Down on the surf coast, so well done to you. But I'm looking for some vision before I fully this mark.
Yeah, I'm not too sure if Birregurra had a video camera out there that day.
Well, they need one if they haven't got it already. Let's crack in because this episode is huge. It's not often you get to speak to an Olympian, let alone someone who's won a gold medal and a bronze medal before. So I think let's get cracking. It's going to be an absolute ripper. If you want to learn more about who we are, feel free to connect with us on LinkedIn, or if you want to ask us any questions, jump into the Sports Grad community.
Absolutely. And a shout out to a few of the new organisations who have just joined us inside the Sports Grad community. There's been a bit of an Olympic wave that's entered the Sports Grad community, because last week we had Athletics Australia join up to recruit people from our community.
Yep.
We've also had Gymnastics Queensland and Netball Queensland join as well. So they're no doubt starting to build their teams towards Brisbane 2032. So welcome to those guys. But if you are looking to get your foot in the door of the sports industry, come along, join the Sports Grad community. These people are hiring at the moment. Or if you're looking to join the likes of Athletics Australia, Gymnastics and Netball, and want to hire people quickly and easily, then jump into the Sports Grad community, because there really is something for everyone inside. So get involved with that.
Absolutely, Rubes. Quick question for you. What are you doing on June 5?
June 5? I'm not sure. I have to check my calendar.
You've got no plans. Well, I have an idea for you, and it's Deacon's Virtual Open Day, which is on Sunday, June 5, where you can join thousands of students in coming in to see what Deakin has to offer. You can get all the information you need from one epic interactive digital event where you can explore courses, check out campuses, and have all your study questions answered, all from the comfort of your own home, which is pretty epic, if you ask me.
I believe I'm actually speaking of that. I probably should have known better.
Well, you've got a packed calendar, so that's understandable. Well, there's a sell right there, Come in and listen to Ruben. But over the past 2 years, over 100,000 people have joined on the day, which is absolutely epic. So get involved. Don't miss out. So search Deakin Open Day and reserve your spot today. I might come along to that to watch you speak.
Yeah, they're good fun.
Yeah, okay. Awesome episode, Rubes. Who have we got today?
Ryan, today we are chatting with none other than Natalie Cook OAM. Nat is a five-time Olympian. She featured in the beach volleyball. She was a gold medalist in Sydney 2000, a bronze medalist in 1996. She's now an Australian Sporting Hall of Fame member. She's been the executive director at the Queensland Academy of Sport. She was the president of the Queensland Olympic Committee. She's even been a mentor for Startup Boot Camp and interested in the tech world as well. But my favourite part of her LinkedIn bio, Ryan, is when you scroll all the way down to the education section and it says, University of Queensland, physiotherapy, only got halfway before volleyball took over.
That's totally fine.
Yeah.
For those out there who've got halfway through a degree, hey, some things just take over. And for Nat, it was volleyball.
Exactly. Focus on your strengths. Anyway, Brisbane has been selected the host city for the Summer Olympic Games and Summer Paralympic Games coming up in 2032. So there's no one better to fly the Olympic flag for Queensland than Nat Cook. So we had an incredible chat with her, and some of the things that are worth looking out for, just a bit of the backstory behind the Brisbane 32 bid and why it's going to be so epic. You know, Nat had to sell the vision to the International Olympic Committee on why Brisbane was going to be incredible, and we get to hear it straight from her mouth. She absolutely loves Queensland, loves the Olympics, and I think everyone's going to be, lining up to get a job at the Olympics after you listen to Nat.
Absolutely. She is a big Queensland fan, so awesome to hear her chat it and the passion she had for the Olympic Games coming up there. I loved her keys to success, and the main one she spoke about was the networking part of that. So tune in to hear that, and also a bit of a tip for people who, when you're at a networking event or you meet someone for the first time, how do you remember their name? Because if you're like me, it goes in one ear and out the next, and I need to get better at that. But Nat has a bit of a trick. So for those out there, tune in for that one.
Absolutely. And then finally, for those who've been getting knocked back from interviews or not having a lot of success with your jobs, or might be something else that's requiring a bit of resilience, Nat has this incredible inner belief that she's carried with her for 40 years that has allowed her to build this incredible bank of resilience. And so if you're needing that at the moment, Nat teaches you a few ways to get on the right track.
Awesome. Well, let's get cracking. Great episode. So we hope you enjoy this. Grab a pen, enjoy this chat with Natalie Cook. Nat, welcome to the Sports Grad podcast.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for the invite, and nothing like Ruben reaching out on LinkedIn. And when someone's that brave and bold to ask for me to show up on a podcast, you just have to say yes.
Well, Nat, your profile was incredibly inviting. I was looking at it; it was very detailed, and you're putting a lot of great content out there, smiling in front of the Sydney Opera House. So I thought we have to get her on.
Yeah, well, I was there for Taronga Zoo, actually. It's amazing the things when you have children and you come out of my athletic career, and I want to take her to see all the best things. And so you got to go to the bridge, you got to go to Sydney Opera House, you got to then go to the zoo. And, it was pretty exciting to live through the eyes of a young 6-year-old. So thanks for reaching out, Ruben. And I had a read of what you guys do and thought this was a great opportunity to engage the next generation of sports administrators and sports supporters to make sure we're ready for this amazing 10 years we have ahead of us.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's talk about that, because when you think of the Olympics, the cities of London, Paris, Tokyo, Los Angeles come to mind, and now Brisbane, which is incredible. But I'd love to learn, where were you and how did you react when Brisbane got announced as the host city for the 2032 Olympic and Paralympic Games?
Well, I was super lucky. I was a part of the bidding team with the Premier, the Lord Mayor and the Prime Minister and John Coates and the Paralympic Australia President as well, Jock O'Callaghan. So we got to present to the IOC via Zoom to convince them that Brisbane, like it's really hard to roll it off your tongue as an Olympic Paralympic city, that Brisbane could be the host of the biggest and best sporting event in the world. And so I saw it unfold for probably, 7 years ago, Graham Quirk, the then Lord Mayor of Brisbane, sort of floated the idea. And that's what dreams are made of. He actually just put it out there to see if it would stick. And it did. And so it actually took 7 years from that, the birthing of the idea that Brisbane could host. And to be part of the last 12 months in the lead-in and present to the IOC president and his committee members, so to see what Brisbane had on offer. So here's the answer to your question. I was right in the heart of South Bank in Brisbane on the stage, hosting thousands of people, sitting there waiting in a COVID time, in a pandemic, where the rest of Australia was shut down and Brisbane was still able to do this, waiting for the live cross back when Thomas Bach opened the envelope and said, can't really say the winner is Brisbane, so he had to say the games have been awarded to Brisbane. So I was right in the heart of it. I felt every single emotion, the young kids screaming and cheering, not knowing what it was going to be about for them, to the older generation of Dawn Fraser sitting there understanding 3 Olympic Games in Australia for her, 56, 2000, 32. We just got to hope Dawnie gets all the way to the end of 32.
That is
awesome.
That is incredible. And how did they? What was some of the key components to that pitch when you said, "Let's bring the biggest show on earth to the brown snake"?
Well, yeah, the brown snake. Well, let me tell you, in some of the documents, it turned crystal sparkling blue too. The good old brown snake.
The lovely waters of the big brown snake.
It's all about Photoshop, right? So we didn't have to Photoshop much for Brisbane, Gold Coast, Sunshine Coast, Townsville, of course, hosting some football preliminaries. But to showcase under the new norms of the IOC, which is about a region hosting, and how do we make sure that the Olympics fits into our city and our region, and not our city and region having to fit into the Olympics. So some of these fundamental changes have enabled Brisbane to be a perfect candidate for the Olympics. So we promised 5 core commitments. And let me see if I remember them all. I'm very clear on the first 4, but we might ad-lib on the 5th one. Athletes at the centre and heart of everything we do, and how do we make the athlete pathway more robust, from the sparkle in the 8-year-old. However, it could be the sparkle in the 2-year-old skateboarder, right? With 10 years to go, because the Tokyo gold medalist was 11 for skateboarding.
Crazy.
So we could be looking at a 1-year-old. So you don't even know when your Olympic dream could come true. But the athlete pathway and club sports systems and community sport and infrastructure all the way through to the top of the podium. Number 2, climate positive. How do we become the first climate positive games? And even by announcing that, and we don't have the how yet. Again, it's about the dream and the intent to make sure that by then we are climate positive. Even that has helped Paris get more excited about trying to make their games as climate positive as they can, with only 2 years to go. So that's pretty exciting. I think our bold declaration will help accelerate LA. And then by the time we get to 2032, let's hope that we can deliver on that promise. The third one is, of course, mobility, accessibility, inclusion, diversity, which is probably 3 and 4. How do we make the city accessible for people with a disability and everybody that wants to come into Brisbane and Southeast Queensland? And then number 5, by the time I get down there, I don't know.
We're testing you there.
Yeah, you're testing me on number 5. So
come on, Nat, you've had 7 years.
Yeah, come on.
Well, no, just the last pitches, everyone had their place, but we'll have to circle back and find out what number 5 is. I just know there were 5 rings, 5 fingers on the hand, 5 promises. Maybe it's an infrastructure piece that, yes, probably the least of my worries.
Maybe it was the promise of the Gabba being redone. That might have been number 5.
Yes, not that you Victorians will like it when it's going to be the new G. It's going to be that epic the G.
Oh, no.
Well, I saw some new plans floated for the MCGA the other day, so they might have heard that this is in the works and we've got to counter with something else.
Well, and that helps too, right? That's what it's all about. It enables people to think bigger in all areas. And it's not just, it's like, if I can do that in sport and the Olympics, even in business, even in sports grad, even when you are graduating from university, what is it that you can say you've done in 2032 when you look back for 10 years and set those bold, courageous, dangerous, ambitious goals? And that's the power of what I think an Olympics and Paralympics does.
Yeah. During our extensive research of you and the Brisbane Olympics coming up, we came across a fact that Brisbane is the smallest Olympic host city since Montreal in 1976. And with that in mind, I'm wondering, what is special about Brisbane that is going to make this Olympics awesome?
Well, I've lived here 33 years and the other 15 of my life were in Townsville. So I bleed maroon. I'm a Queenslander through and through. And like we said at the beginning, what makes it special is it's going to be intimate. The new G at the Gabba is going to be only 53,000 seats. It's not about making it bigger and bolder. It might be 60,000. It might be we're upgrading 7 to 60. So it's about being a fan, the best friendly fan experience. It's about wayfinding. It's about technology. It's about broadcasting to the world and how we can enable a stadium that's going to be the best in 10 years' time. So we don't want to get ahead of ourselves now, although we are planning to have a pre-legacy for the Gabba so that football and cricket can also start early, and we can have our mighty Lions and our cricketers play there as well. So it's all about engaging, I think, and you will know about the tech side moving so quickly. How can we have the stadium of LA's opening ceremony? How do we fill that for Brisbane? And they watch it from LA feeling like they're in Brisbane, right? That would be cool. What Paris are doing, I don't know if your research has taken you to Paris, is they're doing a 6-kilometre long opening ceremony. So the opening ceremony is actually on the river.
That's cool.
And the athletes,
it's a non-stadium opening ceremony. I think the first ever.
So everyone can be a part of it.
Everyone can be a part of it. The athletes will be on like barges and floating down the opening ceremony. It's going to be past the Champs-Élysées, the Eiffel Tower, all of those famous monuments that we know what Paris is about. And, you know, it's got a long history for Europe and Paris. We have to create that for Brisbane. We are such a new city. But it's all about our friendly hospitality, our casual, intimate, connected lifestyle, and ultimately our lifestyle. The IOC and the International Olympic Committee could not believe how much greenery is around. And you can be 15 minutes out of the centre of Brisbane City and be in a leafy suburb like Toorak, Paran. You know, posh suburbs. We've got Fig Tree Pocket, and so the IOC were just super impressed. And also coming from the Gold Coast to the Sunshine Coast, that 3 hours, which we're hoping through faster trains, can make it a lot quicker. But that's the diameter of Paris as well. So it really is going to open up our region and showcase Brisbane to the world. People. The day after the announcement, the most thing that was Googled was, where is Brisbane? So what we're going to see now is people Googling, how do I get to Brisbane? I want to go to Brisbane. And we're going to see more and more people want to come to Queensland and therefore Australia. Like everyone, it is an Australian Games. Sydney did so much for Australia, not just Sydney. And that's something that we want to do for Australia as well.
And you're a big part of that as well, might I mention. You talk about selling the dream of a Brisbane Olympics. There's no one better than you to kind of sell the dream of a Brisbane Olympics, being a passionate Queenslander and being, you mentioned as well, doing things in fives. You're a 5-time Olympian, gold medalist in 2000. You're an integral part of this whole thing happening. I want to talk about the organising committee for a second and start to understand, how does that come to fruition? How does the organising committee even get selected? And then who are these people that are made up to make these big decisions for Brisbane?
Yeah, well, I was lucky enough to be appointed one of the 22 members, and it's really hard to explain to people what it's like when you are an Olympian. It's one of those things you dream. I was 8 years old. I dreamt to be an Olympian. I didn't know I would go 5 times and win medals, but this is how it happened for me. I have a one-time focus. It's a single-minded focus. And then
for those listening, Nat's just chucked on a very colourful pair of Olympic ring sunglasses, which look fantastic.
Would encourage anybody listening to find this on YouTube.
Absolutely.
See these sunnies.
I have to remember that we are on podcast visual, and I will show the bronze medal. I'm showing the Olympic bronze medal from Atlanta in 1996. Now, many of you wouldn't have been born, but that's okay. And in the right light, it looks gold. And then
I was just about to say, sure, that's not your gold?
No, because here it comes. 4 years later, the dream continues. This is the real
Oh my
deal.
God.
And you have to go on
Wow.
YouTube to have a look. The real Sydney 2000 Olympic gold medalist.
Far out.
So therefore, I've just taken my glasses off. I've put my medals down. The 22 years, like one's 22 years old and one is 26 years old, and the shine never wears off. Let me tell you, it is a special moment, which I guess in answer to the question is why I was chosen. The Olympics is in my blood, and hopefully now, after being retired for 10 years, I can work on the other side of sport and have the best experience for our athletes and our visitors and our volunteers coming to the Brisbane Olympics and Paralympics. So I was, not that I was the first one appointed, but my number one. I like number one, so I'll take number one seat.
You've done good at taking number one. Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's what we dream of, right? We dream of
That's it.
Of being the best in the world. If you find me somebody that dreams of coming second in an AFL premiership or coming second at the Olympics, that of course we're all proud of that, and you get to that, and there's nothing wrong with my bronze medal or silver medals, but the dream, every kid's dream, is to win an Olympic gold medal. So the board is made up of a president who was independently found by a recruiting company. The recruiting company found 5 members of the board. The chair, Andrew Liveris, who has had a lot of experience internationally and with the IOC and the sponsorship model. Part of what the board's job is to make the finances stack up so that the games actually cost Queensland nothing, right? You heard it here. John Coates, who is was until recently the Australian Olympic Committee president, which we say AOC, 32 years he sat in that seat. He still is the vice president of the International Olympic Committee, the IOC, and John has worked under the new norms at making the games not only climate positive, but cost neutral. So we as a board have to raise lots of money from corporate sector and philanthropic sector to make the balance sheet stack up. So our chair has a lot of experience in that. Then we've got 4 more independents that were announced by the recruiting company. The Premier of Queensland, Anastasia Palaszczuk, she got to choose 4 people. So I'm one of her appointments. Herself, Stephen Miles, who is the Minister for Infrastructure and the Deputy Premier here in Queensland. Then she also chose Patrick Johnson, who is an Olympian track runner. And ironically, he's got a great story, Indigenous runner. He was born on a speedboat on the way to Cairns and lived on a boat for his first 17 years, and then became the fastest runner we've ever seen in Australia. So that's pretty cool. So 4 from the Premier, 4 from the Prime Minister, and then the Lord Mayor. He got to choose 1 other mayor. Then I've got the Australian Olympic Committee CEO and the Paralympics Australia president. So there you go. It's a big board, and there's a lot of work to be done.
So your job really is to sell the games. Like you're just selling it to people, selling the dream, selling. As you said, you've got to try and get this cash in the door pretty much to pay for it. So is that how you spend most of your time, selling the game to big corporates, different people around Australia and the world?
Yeah, that will. We had our first board meeting a few weeks ago, so that will be most of our job. So I've been selling the Olympic and Olympian sizzle for 40 years. Since the day I had the dream. Like as an 8-year-old, I would tell everyone, I want to go to the Olympics. I want to go to the Olympics. I was selling my dream, which I got to live for a good 20 years. And now I'm selling the dream for the next generation of athletes, the next generation of administrators, the next generation of games support teams, volunteers, selling Queensland to the world, selling the Olympics and Paralympics to sponsors. So you're exactly right, Ryan. I am around the office, because I work for the Queensland government as well. I get called the Olympic Sparkle. They're like, here she comes. I did a little bit of gold dust, a little bit of magic fairy dust, and everyone walks away seeing the Olympic rings as well. They just need a pair of glasses.
You wear them around the office then, surely.
They do. They
Makes
all
a
try
lot
and
of
hunt them down. They are hot property, but there's only one pair and they're mine.
That is amazing.
Brilliant.
One thing you mentioned before is you've sold this incredible vision and you get to work out the how. Because one thing else that comes to mind for me is where do you start the planning? What do you do first when you're 10 years out from Olympic Games? And what does that plan look like? And how do you keep it on track over 10 years? Has that been created yet or is that coming up?
No, that's all work in progress. So you'll probably hear those letters too. But
we use them too often.
Yeah, and we have, when you come out of university and when you start new projects like this, the best thing to do is go and look to people who have done it before you at some level. Now, unless you're inventing brand new stuff, which I encourage that too, and then there's someone that's gone before you in the process. So we will, we're talking to London about legacy and how they put the games on. We're also getting the best lessons from the 2018 Commonwealth Games at the Gold Coast. We're getting lessons from Sydney 2000, even though it was a long time ago, because things have changed so much by the time we get to 32. So we've got to be, I say, imitate and innovate. So we do want to copy a little bit, and then we've got to innovate as we go. So we only have a handbook of T-minus 7 years. That's all it's ever been. We are the first Olympic Games to be granted with a 10-year runway. Now, Los Angeles had that too, but accidentally, not on purpose. So they were only ever bidding for a 7-year plan. So what they did is actually just put everything on hold, not knowing that they could probably have started the 10-year handbook for us. And so we talk a lot to the other organising committees. They're very helpful in knowledge sharing. And like I said, some of our big, bold, dangerous goals are already working backwards to help them get ahead of the curve. So whilst we start with a blank sheet of paper, it's not really. We have a very good indication of what's been before us, and the International Olympic Committee are very supportive in trying to make sure that we keep iterating the games and we make it the best, as you've seen with new sports, right? We've seen BMX, freestyle, we've seen skateboarding, rock climbing, and surfing come in. And it really we will have the opportunity for Brisbane to bring in a few new sports.
Believe lacrosse is coming in. That's a sport dear to my heart. Am I right there?
Well, look, everyone, like netball, cricket, lacrosse, they're all associate members. Now, I don't know if that's the actual right term of the International Olympic Committee. They're all in there trying to put their case forward. There are a few parameters that have to be met and looked at around gender equality. So netball have a problem. They are too female dominant. So they're working on male netball and mixed netball. Cricket's problem is it's a big team and we have a cap with the number of athletes that are allowed into a games. So if you did choose a cricket, then you may not have the opportunity for other sport. You get up to 5, but that might mean you only get 1 cricket. So there are a few things to consider, and that decision isn't made till a lot longer along the journey. So there's a lot of things to. I'm sure our president of the chair of the organising committee has a list, and we'll be working through that systematically.
Was beach volleyball new to the Olympic Games in Sydney 2000?
It was new in 96. It was his first go. It did have what they called demonstration in Barcelona. It wasn't for a full medal sport, so you won't see it on the historical list. So I was in the first 5 goes at beach volleyball being in the Olympics. It was pretty special.
So you got the chance to put beach volleyball on the map, and now it's well and truly cemented there.
Well, we knew that. We fought for a long time to get beach volleyball on. We knew how great it was. A lot of the people sitting in the positions that made the decision weren't aware. There's a lot that goes on behind the scenes to get people to even show up to have a look. And then now we've cemented ourselves in the schedule, and it's one of the hottest tickets for any Olympic Games. It's pretty amazing. And the beach volleyball will be held under the Eiffel Tower in Paris. So we can't have a better spot.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's phenomenal. Well, Nat, we've talked about the games and why they're so special and meaningful to you, but I want to talk about yourself for a moment now, because you're doing a handful of different things. Can you tell us a bit about how you spend your time and why you're doing what you're doing at the moment?
Yeah, I wear a few hats, and after the organising committee nomination, I'm trying to simplify. So there are times in your careers when you get out of the blocks real fast, you try and go to the top of the mountain, and you get up there and you realise there's not much oxygen. You've got to come back down, right? So you go up and you celebrate, and then you come back down and reassess. And so I'm just about to hand over my role as the chair of the Queensland Olympic Council. So I have been for the last 9 years working on the local environment for our Olympians, our fundraising, our team appeal. How do we get our team across to Rio and Tokyo? That was what I was tasked with. How do we raise money? So I'm handing that over. I also sit on the World Olympians Association board, which is a big board, 19 from all over the world. And our job is to look after the retired athletes, the 110,000 living Olympians.
Who's the most fun to hang out with on that board?
Well, see, fun is, these words now become different to everybody. So probably the president, he is from France but lives in Monaco. So you want to be friends with him because, the Monaco Grand Prix, he's best mates with Prince Albert. He flies his own plane and he owns a cigar company. So he's the most interesting. And he was a pentathlete gold medalist. So you don't ever want to mess with him too with his saber sword. And
they're good at everything, the pentathletes.
That's right. And the president of the International Olympic Committee was a fencer. So both of those two together are awesome. James Tompkins, the awesome foursome rower who's been to 6 Olympic Games, is also on that committee with me. So we have a great time when we do stuff, making sure we take care of the Olympians. So those are 2 of my other board roles. And I also work, as I said earlier, for the Queensland government in high performance sport, grassroots sport, community sport, sport tech, relationships, innovation. How do we get everybody working together collaboratively? Because, more heads on the task will actually produce a better outcome.
Tell us a bit about the sports tech space, because the Pathways program that you're involved with and getting people to the elite level seems quite obvious given your background, but the tech side, probably less obvious. Tell us about how you got involved in that.
Yeah, I went to Switzerland where the International Olympic Committee lives, and they also have an Olympic museum. And I was there for a year, kind of a year sabbatical. Most people have a gap year or at the end of school before they go to university. Well, I had it at the end of the Olympic career before I went into sports admin. And so in sitting by the Lake Geneva in Switzerland, it just rolls off the tongue.
Could be in worse places.
Yeah, it could be worse. I'd seen what was happening in tech, and I just, right at the heart of the International Olympic Committee, there's a lot of tech innovation going on, and I was invited to be a judge at one of the conferences. And so seeing the pictures and seeing the presentations and seeing the scope of AI, blockchain, Web3, metaverse, NFTs, all of that coming to fruition a few years ago, and seeing it emerge just caught my attention. And I knew that was the future. How do we create the best fan experience? So I've started to make sure I support, and we're building some things here at the Queensland government to make sure that that's what we focus on moving forward.
Any specific things you learned around NFTs that you could share with us?
Well, it's like anything. If you find the good ones, they're very valuable, the rarity, the uniqueness. But then when you see people throw them up there with nothing behind them and try and sell them at a high price, that's like one person does it wrong and then it tarnishes everyone. So I do think it's the digitizing of the experiences and the opportunities through the NFTs that are amazing. And if you find the right one and prepared to pay the price to get access, it really is access to, I saw Snoop Dogg's one from the Super Bowl, right? And how they play in the metaverse and the sandbox. And it's an interesting space, and proceed with caution, but with optimistic excitement.
Maybe by Brisbane 32, there could be gold medal NFTs.
Yeah.
You never know.
I was about to say, imagine where we're going to be at in 10 years' time.
Yeah.
Well, somebody said, one of our leading industry speakers from the Australian Sport Technology Network, John Persico, said that I could continue to play volleyball for the rest of my life in the metaverse. I thought, that's awesome. I can still wear a bikini. I can play every day in the metaverse, and that's just something that we all aspire to, right?
That's it. If you can't, pick a sport like equestrian, where I forget his name, but there's a bloke who's still going around. Andrew Hoy.
That's 8.
Yes. 8 Olympics, which is incredible. Yeah. If you can't make 8 Olympics, then the metaverse is a pretty good place to be as well.
Yeah.
Awesome. Nat, we hear from a lot of sources that you are an incredible motivational speaker. I know it's something that you love to do. Can you tell us a bit about what do you talk about? Because you've done so much in your time. There's so many different things you could talk about. What do you speak about when you go out to the masses?
It's a great question, Ruben, because it is the toughest part. How do you simplify 20 years of a sporting career and an evolution into business and networking? And it depends on the audience, but I really do talk about sustaining motivation and sustaining success for a long period of time. Now, that doesn't always mean you're going to win at everything you do. So building resilience and character through failing, and in the entrepreneur world, we call it failing forward, failing fast. The secret is not actually in analyzing the failure. It's in how do you know that you're destined for this idea not to work and get out so you don't have a scar, right? That's really, before you crash at the bottom, how do you get out early knowing? But it really is, for me, about internal strategy, about your own inner weather, your own inner world, because we've seen the weather outside. We've seen storms and floods and fires and COVID, and all of that can continue to keep happening. But how do you, as an individual, weather the storm? And that was playing sport too. There were times where we just got pummeled and we got picked on and we couldn't work out how to get out of it, and all of those strategies. So I talk to people about their own inner success strategies, and over the time I've used superheroes and a thing called an easy button, and you'll have to come to hear me speak to understand what the easy button is. And how do you foster courage to make that decision, and even to the point of when you're driving in a car, and you boys can answer this, you're driving in a car, you see the yellow lights, do you press your foot on the accelerator or do you press the brake? Ryan, you go first.
I'm definitely on the accelerator.
Depends how long it's been orange for.
Okay,
no, but I think I'll brake.
Yeah, and Ruben said accelerate. So Ryan, first of all, started to think about it, and he's like, he started to put parameters in place, right? And this is like when you play sport, you put in these questions, they take too long. You've got one chance to, like Daniel Ricciardo, do you take the gap and blow the Red Bull car up on the side, or do you hold back and miss the turn? And Ruben just said, I'm accelerating. And everyone's and I'm not saying either is better than the other, but this is a part of trying to understand your own inner compass and what you would do and why. So I talk a lot about that. I also speak about the most important thing that you can do if you're going to do one thing is learn people's names. The skill that of the century is names and learning people's names. And I was very fortunate to do a Dale Carnegie course. Now, for the young bucks out there and ladies, go and Google Dale Carnegie. He's no longer with us, but his work will stay forever. And fundamentally, is the simplest principles in the How to Win Friends and Influence People book is learning people's names. So I try and get everyone to understand how that happens, to network. Your biggest asset is your network. And if you're just coming out of uni, then go to as many events, go to as many lunches, breakfasts, dinners, envelope openings as you can, and meet as many people as you can and learn their names.
I might mention another former Olympian and silver medalist who's been on this, I was going to say podcast, but she was on the YouTube series of Sports Grad whilst it was still a very amateur operation. You might know her, Jenny Screen, basketballer.
Yeah.
Yep. I did a strength and conditioning internship under Jenny probably 4 or 5 years ago, and she said her method to learning people's names was through association with their shoes. And I don't know what sort of connection she'd make, but she would just take one look at someone's shoes and she would know their name immediately. So what's your tactic to remembering names?
Well, through Dale Carnegie, I learned that when you're introduced to someone, your job is to repeat their name 3 times in a short period of time in a sentence. So it's like, thanks for the introduction, Ruben. It was really great to meet you, Ruben. And I really liked when you talked about my shoes, Ruben. And so when you're embedding that, it is almost like a mild hypnosis. You're embedding. So at the same time as I'm trying to do that in my 30 seconds to a minute with you, I am trying to know what association I can make to Reuben. Now, for me, I don't know what you're thinking, Ryan, but it's the Reuben sandwich in New York. and it's a famous sandwich. And so now, I put a sandwich on Reuben's head, and now that has made a photograph, and now I should always remember Reuben.
It's absolutely brilliant. I'm going to need that tip because I'm awful at it. And I tell Reuben all the time, I meet someone and their name will go in one ear, out the next. So use their name 3 times very quickly. I think maybe a little tip for young players out there.
Someone to make a meme out of that, Photoshop a sandwich onto my face or something, I'm sure. But we'll see. Well, that's a good one though.
Yeah, I'm next time I see Jenny, I'll ask her about the shoes and for me as a beach volleyballer, it's a thong.
True.
Not a thong, it's a pair of thongs. So you don't want to mix those up either.
No,
I love it. Nat, so when we speak to athletes, one thing that always comes to my mind of something to ask is around resilience, grit, and failure, because it's something that's pretty much part of any athlete's career. Not many don't fail at all. Everyone has to deal with some level of failure on the way. So I'm wondering with you, how did you deal with failure or rejection? Because I've got no doubt whilst you're one of the more elite athletes we've ever seen in the country, you would have had a failure along the way.
Absolutely, Ryan. See, so we're doing this.
Well, you've got to say my name 3 times. I think you've said it a couple of times now, so you should remember it.
If I look back in my career at big matches and international matches, I probably lost more than I won. And it's about periodizing, like with strength and conditioning, your cycle and when you think you're going to be at your best. And swimmers, we hear about it a lot when they have to taper. How do you go through a football season the whole time and be ready for the finals? We used to play in beach volleyball Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And how do I make sure I'm at my best on Sunday afternoon and not just Thursday, right? So, and when I watch tennis, I really love seeing Rafa and Djokovic and Federer and now the new Spanish kid be able to serve with as much intensity at 5 hours as he did for the first serve. So when you build that level of resilience up, it comes from losing. It comes from crying. And throughout my career, I cried a lot. I got angry a lot. The frustrations, the emotions, let them out in a safe space, let them out with a coach around, let them out with peers or friends. And especially if you are going for a job and you really want it and you don't get it, talk about it, talk it out with someone, ask for feedback. Never be afraid to ask for feedback, which is what we would always sit and watch video. The coach would give us 4 hours, depending on whether we had to play again, 4 or 5 hours to stew on it, to go and get something to eat, to shower, and then he'd make us. I'm like, Coach, I don't want to watch. He's like, you've got to see what's going on. So that's something in business we don't do enough. You know, we don't reflect on those key moments that haven't worked, because ultimately there's no whistle or score sheet as much in business as you do when you put yourself out there for a high performance event. So resilience too, you hear about resilience. It'd be nice if you could go to the supermarket and buy a packet, right? And just consume it. The only way to build resilience is to fail and lose, because otherwise it's not needed. And so that part of the journey is crap and hurts. And like I said, you never dream of coming second. So you start to drive that inner flame to burn brighter and to learn more. And Ryan, to be able to say, I didn't get that guy's name, I'm going to go back and ask him. I'm actually going to go back and say, I'm sorry, I didn't recall your name, but I really want to connect on LinkedIn. So get it on the spot. But most of us are too afraid to go back and say, I don't remember your name. So that's really key. Just for me, the dream was so big and so emotively connected to what I wanted to do, to win the Olympic gold medal, that I would do anything. I would lose and cry and go back to practice and, like Jenny, shoot hoops, spike down the line. Amateurs train until they get it right. Professionals train until they don't get it wrong. And that's what we would do. We would keep going. The coach would make us, like I said, Coach, I got it. He's like, have you got it 10 times? You've got to get it 10 times before you can leave practice. And then the lights go on. You're there forever. So, it's a pretty big thing, but the success is won in the failure and the character building when it doesn't go to plan, which is a lot of the time.
And what would you say to someone who's too scared to even attempt failing?
I've got a little trick where most people are afraid to take that first step. So you just lean. And if you lean, and I'm leaning into the screen right now, but if you lean in far enough, you have to step. So don't try and take big steps. Just have a little lean, have a bit of curious look, and then you'll get close enough where you'll, through the lean, have to make a step and then have a go. And it's never as bad. For those that have been parachuting, like my first tandem parachute, I thought I was going to die. And the third or fourth time, you still think you're going to die, but at least you have a smile on your face. So you get to watch those incremental changes through decisions you make. Decisions you don't make actually can be as critical in the review. Why didn't I step up and ask for Ruben's LinkedIn profile, or ask to be friends on LinkedIn, or ask Ruben for a job? Or why didn't I do that? And start to analyze that. The fear never goes away. Here's the tip: never ever goes away. I still get it. I just know what it looks like, what it smells like, what it tastes like, and I now know that I just got to lean in a little bit and have a go. And what's the worst that can happen? You get a no.
Exactly right.
In grad world, you get a no. All right. For me, that was like hunting sponsorship when I was 20 years old, and 99 people would say no, and I was just looking for one yes. But you've got to get through the 99 no's before the yes is possible. And most kids these days give up after 2 or 3 no's.
Well, I actually got a question the other day from a student, and they said, Ruben, how do you deal with rejection when you do get that no? What do you do to pick yourself up from that? And I might redirect that question to you. What would you say to that grad?
Well, now you know that there's 99. So it's like run to the next one. You've got to pick them up like Pokemon Go. You've got to collect all the no's. You learn something every time. And I would also, depending on who gave you the no and at what, I would go and ask, hey, just wondering what in my CV or what in my presentation or what in my interview didn't match up with what you're looking for. And if they give you a clear answer, then you say, where can I go and get that skill? Can you point me? It's about questions. Asking quality questions. So there's no such thing as a bad answer. There is such thing as a bad question, and we're too afraid to ask questions. So just ask the question, find a way to learn the skill. Where can you go? Where can you volunteer? Where can you do it for free? Where can you connect with people that can upskill and up capacity build so that you're ready for the next time?
I forget where I heard it from, but I recall a quote that came from somebody that said, the quality of your life can be determined by the quality of your questions, which leans to exactly what you said. And Nat, you mentioned at the start you're more than happy to come in this podcast when someone was bold enough to reach out to you. It wasn't always the case for me when I was a student. I remember trying to pick up the phone to call the first person who I wanted to have coffee with. And I was stuck holding my phone up with the guy's phone number in it, pacing around my backyard for 25 minutes, trying to bring myself to call it and couldn't do it. And eventually, as you say, just like leaned in, and then eventually forced the phone into my finger and pressed call. And to my anxiety, he picked up and I had to talk to him. But it got easier every single time. So when I saw your name pop up on LinkedIn, I wasn't anxious. I was excited. I was like, far out, this is Nat Cook. She's a gold medalist in Sydney 2000. I was 6 years old, living in Glebe, putting posters up on my bedroom window at the time, celebrating the Olympics. Like, how lucky am I to get the chance to chat with Nat Cook? So it does get easier for those people who are thinking about taking that first step.
And what's the worst thing that could have happened, right? I either didn't write back or I said I don't have time, and then you just follow up. The other thing there is if I said no or I didn't have time, is you put in your diary for a month to watch LinkedIn and to go back in on another thing. Hey, I saw you. You just, quality people, I don't mean to talk about myself like that, but quality people I just realized what I was about to say. Quality people will actually like to help and want to be part of other great things. So if you put yourself out there as being great yourself, you connect with other greatness. So therefore, I've just called myself great and quality. So you've got to have a bit of self-confidence, and you've got to be able to talk yourself up, because until you can, no one else will. So I spent 20 years telling people how great I was and waiting for reality to catch up. It's this inner belief, and the inner belief comes when you've done the work, when you've practiced, when the dream's powerful, when you are a nice person and you invite people into the dream and the journey. And so I think I replied super fast, Ruben, after I've said no to many.
Yeah, you did.
I have said no to many people because I don't have time, but I saw what you're doing and what you guys are about, and building a community of collaboration and support for everyone in this. And that's what I feel a part of the Olympians. Like, my job now is to help elevate all Olympians, not just me. I spent 20 years trying to do it for myself, and now I want to give back and make sure that the next generation, the 8-year-old kid that says, I want to be a swimmer or a volleyballer or a golfer or a surfer, has it a little bit easier than I did.
Well, that is incredibly kind of you. Thank you, Nat. We're very happy that you responded to us as well. And I was just going to say, I think that's probably the most remarkable thing about Olympians is how strong that inner belief is, like to carry that and persist for 20 years, as you say, until the rest of the world catches up with you and realizes, this is what I've got to offer, is an extremely hard thing to ask of somebody. So to have got through the other side of it and to now, be relishing that success is just amazing, I think. So,
and the part of that, the other part that I haven't mentioned is I don't do it alone. I've got my volleyball partner, Kerry, our coaches, our support team, our doctors, our sponsors, our family, our friends, and they've all copped it at many times where, I miss a birthday or I'm grumpy or hangry and I, say something I shouldn't. And the most powerful word other than someone's name is sorry, right? So when you do something wrong or it doesn't go to plan or you make a silly mistake, is to be able to go, sorry. So I have had massive amounts of support, but I've asked for it. You've got to be able to ask. You've got to be able to ask for help when it's going wrong and ask for help when it's going right. Like, I needed copious amounts of money to send us all around the world to play beach volleyball, and I didn't have it. So I wasn't going to earn it as a barista at Zarafas, right? I had to go and sell the dream and sell it to sponsors and ask them to come on the journey in the one day hope that I would stand on top of the world and they could relish in it as well. And you just keep going. If your dream's powerful enough, you keep going until you get it.
Absolutely.
What a point to finish on. Nat, it has been absolutely awesome chatting to you. And honestly, it is talking through what's to come in the next 10 years, but also everything you've achieved and, some of the things at the end there around resilience and grit and how to push through to succeed in whatever you want to do is seriously powerful stuff for our listeners. So we really appreciate your time today, and thank you for replying to Ruben. When he said to me, I'm just about to ring Nat Cook, I was just like, what? Alrighty, I'll back you in, mate. Thank you for replying on LinkedIn, and thank you for answering the phone. It has been an absolute pleasure to chat today.
Pleasure. And if there's one thing I can leave you all with is it is the most exciting 10 years we have ahead to be an Australian sport. Get excited, start dreaming about where you want to be in the ecosystem, start taking steps towards that. You've got FIFA Women's World Cup, you've got Basketball World Cups, you've got cricket, you've got Rugby World Cup, we've got the Commonwealth Games in Victoria in 2026, we've got the Olympic. It is just like I've got goosebumps for you, and do whatever it takes to get where you want to go, because it is all worth it.
All right, well, Rubes, I think that episode probably had some of the better advice we've ever had on this podcast.
Absolutely.
Some of those little tricks that she was talking about in terms of like networking and just what she was saying at the end around resilience and things like that, genuinely couldn't get much better advice for people out there wanting to work in sport. Honestly,
when you're a 5-time Olympian, she could have said anything and I would have followed it, to be honest.
Yep, I totally agree with you. How good were the props, by the way?
Oh, that was amazing.
That's a sports grad podcast first.
That's the first gold medal we've had on the podcast.
For those out there listening who think they might get a call up to the podcast one day as a guest, you now know the gold standard. This is where we're at now. We need sunnies and gold medals. So
yeah.
Get thinking.
Yeah.
It's a high bar.
Maybe we should put the call out to those people going into Zoom interviews as well. Take some props with you.
Prop up. Makes total sense. I want a pair of those sunnies. They're pretty cool.
Yeah.
I just bought some sunnies and they don't match. But
not enough Olympic rings on them.
Yeah, they're a bit cooler. What are some things you learnt from that episode? There's a lot to take away.
Yeah, I think the number one thing that I took away from this is just ask for help. You can't do everything on your own. Even when you are as incredible as Nat Cook is, and when you've got this incredible inner belief in yourself, you still have to ask for help. Yep. And it doesn't take much. It's just a simple question. But when you start putting the branches out there, you start to get in a bit of a roll. And to be honest, like we've been incredible benefactors of just asking for help. And there's been nothing more satisfying in our journey than when we were able to have that family and friends party a couple of months ago, just to say thank you to all those people who have given us help. And Nat mentioned as well that when she was able to achieve her Olympic success and stand on the podium in Sydney with that gold medal, nothing made her more proud than to be able to share that with the people who had helped her along the way. So first thing I'm taking away from that is just ask for help.
Yeah. And the sports industry loves to help. We've said it a lot of times. People are always giving in sport. People want to help people get to where they want to get to. So don't be fearful of asking for help. Speaking of fearful, I loved her point around, if you do have fear about entering something or having a go at something, rather than take a huge leap into it, just lean into it. I think it's a great analogy to use because, yes, a big step into something new is pretty hard and can get quite fearful. So if you just lean in and just test the waters a bit before you sort of jump right in, it can give you a bit of an insight. Yeah,
that was terrific advice. And then finally, you don't achieve the successes that Nat has without some big, hairy, ambitious goals and see through to follow them. I love everyone listening to this podcast to just, if you do have an ambition to work in sport, why not cast your mind 10 years down the track and have a think about what role could you be doing at Brisbane 2032 Olympics. So there's something to cast your mind forward to. Aim high, as Nat says, and just go your hardest. Believe in yourself, because eventually the world will catch up and eventually see how good you really are.
Yeah, love that. What an episode. One of the best.
What a woman.
Yeah.
Incredible.
Absolute legend. Alrighty, well, find us on LinkedIn, plus be sure to jump into the SportsGrad community. We'd love to chat with you on there. Head to sportsgrad.com.au/community to join, or head to the link in our show notes. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.